As the darkness deepened and the desolate road stretched endlessly before me, my unease grew palpable. Not a single car had passed for what felt like an eternity, leaving me stranded in a sea of towering trees that seemed to whisper ominous secrets in the wind. The navigator, once my faithful guide, now betrayed me, displaying nothing but a blank screen as if mocking my predicament. A sense of dread clawed at my insides as I rounded a bend, only to find the road vanish before my eyes, swallowed by the encroaching forest. Panic surged through me as I realized the gravity of my situation. With trembling hands, I fumbled for the gear shift, desperate to retreat from the edge of the abyss. But fate had other plans. The wheels lost traction on the icy road, sending my car careening out of control. I braced myself for the inevitable impact, the deafening crash echoing through the silent night as metal met wood with bone-jarring force. When consciousness reluctantly returned, I found myself trapped in the twisted wreckage, the bitter cold of winter seeping through every crevice. My phone lay useless in my hand, its screen mocking me with the absence of a signal. Desperation clawed at my throat as I surveyed my surroundings, searching for any glimmer of hope amidst the suffocating darkness. And then, like a distant star in the void, I spotted it, a flickering light dancing through the trees. Ignoring the protests of my battered body, I forced open the door and stumbled into the frigid night, following the beacon of hope with renewed determination. As I trudged through the snow-covered forest, the silence was broken only by the crunch of my footsteps and the faint rustle of branches overhead. The shadows seemed to dance around me, whispering tantalizing promises of salvation and peril in equal measure. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I emerged into a clearing, only to be greeted by a sight straight from a nightmare. The village loomed before me, its dilapidated houses standing as silent sentinels against the encroaching darkness. Candles flickered in every window on one side of the street, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with a life of their own. With trepidation, I stepped onto the deserted street, the echo of my footsteps, the only sound in the stillness of the night. As I approached the nearest house, a chill ran down my spine, for I could feel eyes watching me from the shadows beyond. But driven by desperation, I pressed on, the promise of warmth and shelter beckoning me forward into the heart of darkness. At the end of the eerie street, the glow of celebration emanated from the right side, drawing me like a moth to a flame. 3 men, their faces illuminated by the dancing fire, engaged in a heated argument, their voices carrying through the frigid air. With cautious steps I approached, my eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of safety. Near the second house, an old man sat slumped on a bench, his weathered face etched with lines of discontent. As I neared, his gaze pierced through me, sending a shiver down my spine. "This place kills," he muttered, his voice heavy with warning, his leg shackled to the bench by a massive iron chain. Fear gripped me like icy claws as I recoiled, the realization sinking in that I had stumbled into something far more sinister than I had imagined. Before I could retreat, a voice shattered the silence from behind me. "Hey there, stranger. Good evening to you." A young woman's voice rang out, her figure illuminated by the flickering light of the fire. I turned to see her, her youthful beauty stark against the backdrop of the decrepit village. The men at the fire turned their gaze towards me, their eyes scrutinizing my every move. Caught off guard, I struggled to find my voice, as the girl approached, her steps echoing in the stillness of the night. "That's just my grandfather," she explained with a dismissive wave, her tone tinged with exasperation. "He's gone a bit senile in his old age. Found him chained to the bench not too long ago. Happens more often than you'd think. So, who might you be?" Her words hung in the air, the weight of her gaze pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. Unsure of how to respond, I glanced back at the old man, his eyes boring into mine with a knowing intensity that sent a chill down my spine. "I had an accident," I began, but before I could finish, the old man on the bench interrupted me with a sense of urgency. "I saw the light and came here. Run away, you idiot." Taken aback by his abruptness, I glanced nervously at the girl, unsure of what to make of the situation. But she wasted no time in taking charge, guiding me towards the fire with a firm grip on my arm. "Let's go," she said sharply, her tone brooking no argument. Feeling increasingly uneasy, I cast one last glance back at the old man, his warning ringing in my ears like a warning bell. As we approached the fire, the girl introduced me to the men gathered around it. "This man had an accident," she explained to them. The man named William extended his hand in greeting. "Well, it's not surprising," he remarked, offering me a seat by the fire. "William's the name, and these here are Jacob and Liam. Care for some vodka?" Declining the offer, I settled by the fire, grateful for its warmth amidst the biting cold. As we exchanged stories, the men confirmed the tale of the old man's eccentric behavior, painting a picture of a village plagued by the quirks of age. Relieved to have found some semblance of safety, I asked for a phone to call for help. "A car from the city will come in the morning with food," William explained, tossing more wood onto the fire. "You can speak to them then. We don't have phones here." Despite their hospitality, a sense of unease lingered in the air, exacerbated by the silent presence of Jacob and Liam, who spoke not a word throughout our exchange. "And where are all the others?" I ventured, trying to break the awkward silence that hung over us. "They've been asleep for a while now," William replied, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames. "There's not much else to do around here. Their wives are back home, can't join us for a drink. The rest of the village are old folks." As the night wore on, conversation dwindled, leaving us in a companionable silence punctuated only by the crackle of the fire. But despite the warmth of the flames, a sense of unease gnawed at me, urging me to leave the village behind and escape the shadows that lurked within. "I'll go to the car, just in case," I insisted, feeling a twinge of unease at the thought of spending the night in such a dilapidated house. But William's sharp voice cut through my protest. "No," he said firmly, his gaze unwavering. "You'll stay here with us tonight. It's not safe to be alone out there. Let me show you to your room." Reluctantly, I followed him through the creaking corridors of the house, suppressing a shudder at the sight of the decay that surrounded us. As he led me to a small, musty room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding creeping over me. Alone in the dimly lit room, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Lighting a candle for some semblance of comfort, I glanced around the sparse furnishings, my eyes coming to rest on a piece of paper protruding from behind one of the closets. Curiosity piqued, I reached for the paper and unfolded it, revealing the cryptic message scrawled across its surface. "Don't believe." A chill ran down my spine as I pondered the meaning behind those words. But before I could dwell on it further, movement outside caught my attention. Peering through the window, I watched in horror as the old man from the second house crawled through the snow with a desperation that sent shivers down my spine. His granddaughter, her face contorted with fury, dragged him back towards the bench with a strength that belied her slender frame. I held my breath as the scene unfolded before me, the old man's cries for freedom drowned out by the harsh reality of his captivity. As the granddaughter delivered her final chilling words, a sense of urgency gripped me like a vice. With trembling hands, I reached for the door, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. Outside, the fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows across the faces of the two men seated beside it. With William nowhere in sight, I knew that now was my chance to flee the nightmare that had ensnared me in its grasp. With my heart pounding in my chest, I slowly opened the window and began to climb out, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. But as I heard footsteps approaching the door, panic seized me, freezing me in place. It was William. The sound of his footsteps faded as he moved away, but the creak of the door sent a shiver down my spine. I closed the window abruptly and lay down on the bed, feigning sleep as William entered the room. I held my breath as he stood beside the bed, his gaze boring into me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Every second felt like an eternity as he scrutinized me, his presence suffocating in its intensity. Just as I feared I couldn't endure another moment of his scrutiny, footsteps echoed through the house once more. Liam appeared in the doorway, his whispered words offering a glimmer of hope. "We need your help, Lesh," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "This one's asleep anyway. We need to prepare a chain for him." Relief flooded through me as I realized they were preoccupied, giving me a chance to escape. With a silent prayer of thanks, I seized the opportunity, slipping out of the window and into the biting cold of the night. But as I emerged from the house, my relief turned to bewilderment at the sight before me. A heavy snowstorm raged on the right side of the street, obscuring visibility to almost zero. Yet, on the left side, it was eerily calm, as if an invisible barrier separated the two worlds. Mesmerized by the strange phenomenon, I was torn from my reverie by the voices of my captors inside the house, discussing their plans for me. With a renewed sense of urgency, I knew I had to act fast, but my conscience wouldn't allow me to leave the old man behind. Determined to rescue him, I crouched low and sprinted towards the second house, taking cover as I reached its shadowy facade. "Hey, man," I whispered urgently to my grandfather as we huddled together. "Can you break free?" "No, they have the keys," he replied, his voice tinged with desperation. "But you can help me get to the left side of the street. They'll see us," I protested, my heart pounding with fear. "I don't care," he insisted, his eyes pleading with me. "You'll be safe there. Just get me across." Without further hesitation, I nodded, steeling myself for the risky maneuver ahead. "Get ready," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the howling wind. 1, 2, 3, run. With a burst of adrenaline, we darted across the street, the icy wind biting at our skin as we raced toward safety. But before we could reach the other side, the girl who claimed to be my granddaughter materialized at the bench, her presence sending a shiver down my spine. With unearthly strength, she seized the chain and began to drag my grandfather back towards the bench. Desperate to intervene, I lunged forward, grappling with the creature in a futile attempt to free him. But her grip was unyielding, her movements too swift and powerful to overcome. "Halt!" I shouted, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and defiance. The creature paused, its gaze fixed on me with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. In a voice that seemed to echo with the whispers of 1,000 voices, it spoke. "Return to our side, and I'll release the old man," it said, its words sending a shiver down my spine. "What are you?" I demanded, my mind reeling with terror. "Your imagination," it replied cryptically, its voice a haunting echo in the darkness. It continued, its words like a chilling prophecy of doom. "You've had an accident. Now you're unconscious. There's only one way out. I'm your imagination. Look at the blizzard. Do you think that's possible in reality? We're just in your mind. Have you heard that when you die in a dream? You wake up. It's the same principle here. You'll leave and travel forever through the forest while your body lies in a coma. An eternity of torment awaits, for you will feel everything." As its words sank in, a cold realization washed over me. Trapped in a nightmare of my own making, I knew that escape was futile. With a sinking heart, I resigned myself to the fate that awaited me, my mind consumed by the darkness closing in around me. As the men approached from the other end of the street, their once human forms twisted into grotesque monstrosities, my heart pounded with terror. Their faces contorted into horrifying grimaces, their mouths gaping wide to reveal rows of jagged teeth. Thick black fur covered their bodies, and their movements were unnatural, each step sending shudders down my spine. Turning my gaze back to the girl who had once been beautiful, I recoiled in horror at the sight of her transformation. She was no longer human. She had become one of them, a creature of darkness. As the trio closed in on her, the former William thrust a shotgun into my hands, his intentions unclear. "Hold it," he commanded, his voice tinged with an unsettling calm. But the old man, sensing danger, rose to his feet, his voice trembling with fear. "No, don't you dare," he pleaded. "It's a trick. They can't cross to this side. They're devils, and this side is not theirs. They live only there. They know you won't go back, and they can't tout you. This is their only chance to finish you and me off." Ignoring the old man's warnings, the transformed William spoke, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "Unfortunately, this old man is part of your mind too. I could have killed you, but I gave you the gun." His words sent a chill down my spine as I grappled with the horrifying realization of my own subconscious betraying me. "He couldn't kill you," another voice chimed in, its tone chillingly calm. "That's why you have the gun now. I'm real. I wandered here by chance a couple of days ago. I got lost in the woods. When I saw the fire burning, I couldn't believe my eyes. This village has been abandoned for years. The last inhabitant died a decade ago. Many say that this part of the street is cursed, that terrible creatures dwell there." As he spoke, I listened, my mind reeling with the implications of his words. He continued, recounting his own harrowing experience at the hands of these creatures. "I went to investigate, and they captured me, locking me in the house at the end of the street," he explained. "I left a message behind the closet. Don't believe. At night, they chained me up as if they intended to kill me tomorrow. It amuses them to see us try to escape. Every year, on November 30th, they kill whoever they can catch." His revelation sent a shiver down my spine as I struggled to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before me. How interesting, the transformed William mused. I wonder if you found that piece of paper. You know who could explain it? Your brain. It constructed the event. If you want to stay here forever, then so be it. But if you want to return to life, you know how to wake up. As I stared at the bizarre phenomenon of the blizzard splitting the street in half, I felt a surge of confusion and doubt wash over me. Questions raced through my mind, each more unsettling than the last. Was I losing my sanity? Was my brain playing tricks on me? Who was I, if not the sum of my thoughts and experiences? The line between reality and illusion blurred, leaving me adrift in a sea of uncertainty. But amidst the chaos of my thoughts, one thing remained clear. I needed to break free from this nightmare. With determination coursing through my veins, I raised the shotgun and aimed at the chain binding the old man. The deafening blast echoed through the air as the chain shattered, sending the creatures into a frenzy of shrieks and howls. As they lunged towards me, I braced myself for the onslaught, but to my astonishment, they collided with an invisible barrier, thwarted by some unseen force. Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed the old man, and together we fled into the depths of the forest, the cacophony of screams fading into the distance behind us. Eventually, we stumbled upon my car, its familiar form a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. With trembling hands, I dialed my friend's number, relief flooding through me as I heard his voice on the other end. Soon, we were speeding towards the city, leaving the nightmare behind us. But even as the miles passed beneath our wheels, the questions continued to gnaw at me, their answers as elusive as ever. In the days that followed, I sought solace in the memories of our escape, yet the specter of uncertainty lingered, haunting my every thought. Was I truly awake or trapped in a never-ending dream? As I delved deeper into the mysteries of that cursed village, I uncovered tales of tragedy and despair, each confirming the reality of the horrors we had faced. Yet, even as the evidence mounted, doubts lingered, casting a shadow over my newfound sense of freedom. But in the end, perhaps it didn't matter. Whether awake or dreaming, my life continued much as it had before, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable darkness. And as I drove into the unknown, I found solace in the knowledge that, whatever the truth may be, I was not alone.